Good evening, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. I had a surprise. This is an update that a few people have asked for, and we've never really been able to give you any information. This is about what we ended up calling Alan the Canadian, but it was a little bit like my shelf that's not a shelf, in that most people said he's not a Canadian, so he became almost Alan the Canadian that's not a Canadian. And a lot of people had him pegged for being Muslim. A lot of people had him pegged for, I don't know, mid-European. Not that it matters. He had, and we saw it, he had a Canadian passport, which, if you live, say, in America, you listen to the way I talk, you'll know if you've got a good ear for accents, or what used to be an accent, you'll know that I came from Manchester in the UK, and yet I have an American passport. So the fact that Alan the Canadian is not a Canadian, he's a Canadian by choice, by naturalization. What's the update on him? I only have an update that says he apparently is doing well. Just to give you a bum's rush through Alan the Canadian's case, he came to us quite a time ago now, well over a year ago, and he rolled up here literally on his motorcycle with a pretty girlfriend and a lovely little girl, which was his daughter. And he asked us for money to get back to Manila so that he could file his case or plead his case with immigration, because he was something like 3 or maybe 4 years, don't quote me on that, 3 to 4 years out of status. In other words, he hadn't bothered to update his visa. He claimed that he had given a great deal of money, 50, 60, 70,000, I've forgotten, it was a lot of money. And he'd given it to someone and entrusted to them the job of keeping him up to date. You can't do that, okay? So that apparently seemed to be something that was already feeling not so good. He then went on to say that he needed money to get to Manila, and there he would go to the Canadian embassy, and then 2 Canadians actually sent the money for him and said, and I think that they sent $17,000, which we duly gave him. We gave him that money. He bought a ticket, apparently, to Manila. Can't remember now exactly whether he bought a return ticket, because he would have needed that to get back. But anyway, he went to Manila and he came back with a story about that he had handed over some 50,000 plus pesos to a man who told him that he was the Canadian ambassador. I haven't had cause to go into the embassy at the Canadian embassy, but somehow I don't think little old me is going to go in there, or to the British embassy, or to the American embassy and see the ambassador himself. But that was his story. And not only that, the ambassador had relieved him of the money that he had. In fact, as I recall, and it's all there on video, okay? You don't have to take my word for this. It's all there, all the interview and everything is all there about Alan the Canadian. But if my memory serves me right, he said that the man asked him, let's call him the ambassador that was not an ambassador, how much money have you got to handle this problem that you have? And he said, I think it was about 50,000, but look at the video and get the exact figures. 50,000. Let me have it. And he handed it over. Well, why would he not? This was the ambassador himself. He never got a receipt from that, but he didn't worry about it, because he wasn't talking about somebody at the local sari store, because he spoke to a lady who was at the desk at the embassy, and said, who was that man? And she told him, that was the Canadian ambassador. Gosh, I never. So, he came back here. Now, then he needed to go back again. Well, we then had one of our staunch supporters, who we have come to know as Little Bit Rich. Little Bit Rich stepped up and said, in conversation with me, the emphasis should not be on Alan the Canadian who is not a Canadian. It should be on this young woman who has a little girl. And the little girl was only about 2 years old. So what we should be doing is getting this man on a plane and the heck out of here, so that this girl can be reunited with her family. Now, cut a long story short, he went back to Manila, he came back here again, and he had been given a date, whatever the date was, the 25th of who knows what, that he had to be out of the country. So, our friend, Little Bit Rich, stepped up again, reminding us this is not about Alan the Canadian. This is about the girl. We then got the girl and Alan the Canadian, who's not a Canadian, out of the dangerous situation where they were in a tiny one-bedroom terraced cabin next to a cockpit. A fighting cockpit, okay, in case you're not from the Philippines. And they were being threatened. He'd been knocked to the ground apparently, and the owner of the cockpit had done a dirty Harry, and he'd pulled a gun and said, if anybody messes with this guy again, I'm going to shoot them. So, do you feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? Something like that. I'm being facetious. So we got them out of that situation, and we got them into a nice little studio apartment. Little Bit Rich pledged, I believe, 6,000 pesos per month. And he pledged that to us to give to her. We made only one condition, that she arrive at the church that we attend every Sunday and pick up the money. We didn't say that she had to go on bended knee or do 10 Hail Marys and 5 Our Fathers. We just said, come and get the money, 6,000. And that they would be able to live on that. Then we found the ticket, we got the ticket, we paid for the ticket, it was dated, it had his name, it was ready to be picked up, and then a day or 2 days, maybe 3 days, before he was due to fly out, we gave him the ticket and said, be on the plane. Okay? And he was duly on the plane. And we went round afterwards and we checked up with his girlfriend, and she said, yes, he is on the plane. After that, we got a quite unpleasant letter saying that we had insisted on ruining his reputation, ambushing him to see if he'd gone here or gone there, or had he come back from Manila, which actually he had come back from Manila but pretended he hasn't. So all kinds of lies on the way. But once again, the focus was on getting him out of the country so that the girl could be a happy life again. Well, he was gone, he sent us the nasty letter, we blocked him and didn't hear any more. But a couple of days ago, and I don't know how, but it completely left my mind. I completely forgot that this had happened and forgot to tell anybody, didn't even tell Beth yet. And I bumped into her in Taliban. She was coming out of Jollibee and I was going across the front of Jollibee, and I almost didn't recognize her. She didn't have the child with her, and she recognized me. Well, I'm one of the few foreigners around there, so she would. Asked me how I was. We exchanged pleasantries. I said, how is everything going? And she said, oh, fine. I said, is Alan supporting you? And she said, yes, no more, no less, just what's needed. I said to her, so do you know that he ordered us to stop giving you money? Which is what he did. When he wrote his nasty letter, he said, I want you to stop giving her, my girlfriend, money. My girlfriend, wife, money. I want you to stop that. So I spoke to Little Bit Rich, and we agreed that if that was what was needed, the implication was that he was planning on supporting his girlfriend and child. I told this to her, and she was visibly shocked. And she said, no, I didn't know that. So I said, are you back with your family now? So she said, no, but they come and visit me. She said, I've been at that same place that you found for us, or that they found, and that we paid for initially. A Little Bit Rich, that is. We paid for that. Little Bit Rich was prepared to support her and her little girl for, I think it was 6 months, of 6,000 pesos per month, until she got herself sorted out and hopefully went back with her family. The day that we went there, after we knew, after the time that he was supposed to be on the plane back to Canada, she was at the apartment, I believe. I believe it was the same day that he left. It might have been the next day. And she had her family there. Her family were there and watching television and hanging out with her. So we took that as a good sign. But she's still at that place now, and he is still apparently supporting her. So we take that as a good thing. And he told her, have you seen them, Terence and Beth? Have you seen them? Well, at that time she hadn't. So she told him that. And he said, well, if you see them, it's all right to talk to them. Gosh, Alan, you're such a great guy. Well, that's the update on Alan the Canadian, who was not a Canadian, and really more to do about his girlfriend, because my understanding, and no doubt somebody will put me right on this, I'll be grateful, they'll put me right on what the ruling would be, but he left in tears. He owed a lot of money. He never paid any of the money back. Not that that was a concern of our supporter, but he never paid anything back. I'm taking it that if he owed the Philippine government anything, he never paid that back either, or if he owed the Canadian government anything, I don't think he would have paid that back either. Why would he pay Peter and not pay Paul? So that's the situation there. That's the update. If you're watching this, Alan, sorry if you think of this as an ambush. Just saying what happened. Thanks for looking in. Bye for now.